says, Ben. My name's now Daily Five.
Yes. Mark
Who?
5.
Mark who?
Mark
Don't
who?
know, no, Mark. Never like that name anyway. So boring. Daily Five's the name. What's your name? Five. Daily Five. There we go.
It, yeah,
You like that?
James
It's
Bond.
quite cute, isn't it?
Yeah, 5,
Yeah.
Daily 5. Welcome to another episode of the Foul Nutrition podcast. And today I'm really excited. I've got a good friend of mine, Mark, with me today, who's the founder and CEO of a new app called Daily 5. One of the reasons I'm really excited about this app is I think the synergy and what Mark's created resonates with the Foul Nutrition brand and what FOW stands for, where we're making FOWs, we're committing to making promises, committing to taking the right supplements, diet, training, whatever it may be. But everything begins with a FOW. And what Mark's created with Daily 5 resonates with everything that we're all about. So it's a really exciting partnership for me. I'm really excited for everyone to meet him, find out more about him and the journey that he's been on personally. So I'm going to pass it over to Mark. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself and give everyone a little bit of his backstory and how Daily 5 come around. But look, I know your backstory is really interesting. So, don't shortcut on some of this stuff. Give everybody a real deal because, you've been through a little bit of a journey or quite a journey that's led you to this point where you are now.
Wow. Listen, you ask, I'll share, so I find that easier than kind of describing it myself, because, it's just the way that I roll, but super excited to be here, to be connected with you just over a year ago. Feel like a lot's happened for both of us in that time,
It has.
alongside the entrepreneurial journey, founder of journeys, that personal journey as well. So we connected on a level straight away, really, which has been really nice, just that kind of level of vulnerability around what comes on a daily basis and how we navigate through it, trying to build and create. So it's been, really lovely to relate to you in them ways. And I think what we're doing now was inevitable. We spoke very early on. Daily 5 was where it was at that stage, we're still in our infancy, haven't gone live yet. But I think it was very clear very often that we're aligned in so many ways, our approach to life, the level of support that we want to give others and be of service in some shape or form. And so, it's a big day. It feels like a big day to kind of, a bit of a milestone to get to this point. And the next few weeks is going to be exciting. And beyond that, we'll be on our way, but I didn't answer your question there. But
no, but you know what? Sitting down kind of makes things official, right? Because when we originally connected and we was introduced by somebody said, I think you guys are going to get on really well. You guys should talk, right? So we did. We got together and you came over to the office. Excuse me. You came over to the office and we had a coffee. I think we spoke for about 2 hours.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you just connect with people because your way of thinking, your way of doing, we're both of a similar kind of age where we've experienced life. We've gone through the ups, gone through the downs. Life isn't always roses like people want to make out. You post your pictures on social media and it's like, oh, look how great everything is for me. And really behind the scenes, it's like, actually, this isn't that good, but I'm surviving, right? And I think, we've both had a certain journey. And I think, your journey, different to mine, maybe similar in different ways, but the experiences have come differently. And I know you've got a bit of a backstory where, you've been through a real journey. You started off in a very different industry. I started off as a different industry. I was a graphic designer, ended up selling office equipment, which is something that we both very similar things we were doing. And one thing leads to another, and you go down these different paths in life, and then suddenly you end up at this place that you would never have imagined maybe 15, 20 years ago. But that's where you are, right? But I think your journey's been an interesting one, an exciting one. How you've got to Daily 5 and what it stands for and what it is. But
no, it fascinates the life out of me, that kind of the tapestry of life, like you said, kind of how it all kind of weaves, as you mature, or if you show up in certain ways, just one thing brings another thing, and before you know it, it's not how you imagine it to be, but that in the same way you're asking things of life in yourself to kind of reach that full potential, and you're opening up doors, and as a consequence, things are going to happen. But as a consequence, things are going to happen, which means, okay, how am I going to manage this emotionally and physically and mentally and spiritually? And because for me, I got kind of encouraged a long time ago to kind of not let fear kind of corrupt your life, because I was very fearful once upon a time, very, very hopeless. And So yeah, but have I got the tools to kind of go out into life and kind of see what that brings and embrace it? You know, all the ups and downs that you shared about, and a lot of that, well, all of that has gone into the fabric of Daily Five. Yes, it's through my lens and my lived experience has gone into the fabric of Daily Five, but also not reinventing the wheel. You know, I'm human like everybody else on this planet, and been plonked here for whatever reason, you know, and yeah, you know, it's a tricky place, you know, the good and the bad. You know,
Yep.
it's not all so heavy all the time, but even joy can kind of bring levels of challenges and how we deal with that and what we do with that level of responsibility. So yeah, although that, you know, I've got my fingerprint on Daily Five, it's definitely not about me. It's just things that I picked up along the way over time that have served me really well, and kind of I'm involved in a certain lifestyle, a certain frequency, and I have been for a lot of years now. So I don't have to become kind of conditioned, because I step outside of that and I know that, yeah, a lot of people out there do struggle. You know, they do. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress, a lot of fear. And although I've found ways to kind of support my own day to day, a lot of people, yeah, need a bit of level of support and guidance to kind of navigate their own life. So we can meet in the middle, hopefully through Daily Five. Then I'm sure we can all, yeah, get up to some good stuff. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Look,
still haven't told you about my story, have I? No,
you,
I'm
you
not
haven't,
ducking it.
and I'm going to badger you a little bit so you can say a little bit more. But I think what was good when when we first kind of connected, it was like I say, different journeys, similar outlook, right? And I think when I created the foul brand, it was always created on this list of fouls of what I wanted the brand to be. And so whenever I pick up a product, like this
Oh,
one,
look, there's one there.
yeah,
Oh,
just so happens,
tastes
right?
good.
And you look at the brand and you go, right, okay, I remember what that stood for and why I created it and why I did it. We made vows and we made commitments to the business, to the brand. We were going to use the best ingredients. We were going to test the product. We were going to try and innovate. We wanted to be good enough for the elite, but affordable for everybody and all of these things. So I wasn't just making a commitment to myself. I was making a commitment to the brand and the consumer that bought into the brand. And I think this is the interesting thing with Daily Five for me, because it's about making a commitment. It's about making a vow and a promise to yourself. Um, and then those little commitments and those little promises leading. So you might decide, right, I'm going to go for a walk every day and get into better shape. And then you can start going for a run every day. Then I'm going to start taking supplements. Then I'm going to start eating better. And all of a sudden, it's a series of all these different vows and all these different commitments and promises that you make to yourself. And then the better you start to feel when you do that, because you do, right? It's easy, isn't it, when you start eating cakes to keep eating cakes,
Mm.
right? And then,
I had four cinnamon buns before we started. Yeah,
this is it, right?
yeah.
But it's, it's easy to slide off in one direction because it always feels like it's a really long journey to pull yourself back, when it isn't. You just have to make a commitment to say, right, I'm starting. That's it. And once you do, you might slip off, but it's always about realizing that you can come back. And own experience, and I don't want to talk too much about myself, but even when I did the natural bodybuilding, and I always remember the bit where it all changed for me was when I go, right, if I ate a cake, chocolate bar, rather than have one chocolate bar and then lose it and eat 50 chocolate bars, it was like I'd had the one chocolate bar, enjoy it, and switch straight back on to what I was doing previously. So it's that mindset of knowing that, oh, actually, just because you've mucked up, you don't have to keep mucking up, which is what we all do generally in life, right? We all make a mistake. It's like, oh, I've got my hands dirty now. I might as well just keep making more mistakes. It's about it's about knowing that actually, no, you can change. You can make the decision to change, and you can do it now. And I think this is where I think Daily Five's a nice one, and we are going to go a little bit back to your backstory a little bit, because I think it would be good to talk about it. Because I think you've been on a journey, and even your story as a bit of an athlete as well, and stuff you've done, ultra marathon stuff. It's because some really impressive
I'm gonna
stuff
say
here, mate.
athlete, but yeah,
And it's I get it. You're humble and you don't want to talk about it, but I think it's good for everyone to know the whole journey of Mark, and where he's come and what he's been through, and why it's important for you to give people the opportunity to start making little changes. And Daily Five is about 5 minutes a day, which for me is great, because you're not asking much of people, but you're just saying, start now.
mm,
You know,
mm,
we you can spend 5 minutes doing something you don't really enjoy doing,
mm,
scrolling an app, looking at something random, right?
Mm,
Listen, watching the news on TV, which is just negative, doesn't
mm,
bring anything positive in your life, right?
yeah.
So we'll go back, and I want to do that little bit of a journey, um, and then and then why Daily Five was kind of born out of all of those experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I'll reverse engineer it a little bit because I've not actually said what Daily Five is yet, which is quite alarming. But ultimately, yeah, like you said, there's a lot to Daily Five. This what we represent, how we're looking to show up in the world,
Yep.
the content that we've got, the discovery element, how we got put together. But yeah, in so many ways, it was to kind of create something, to create an opportunity or a space where people can take a moment. Okay, where am I going? Like, where am I? Where am I going to go? And how am I going to get there? And like you said, in a lot of ways, that kind of thought or feeling of giving something up or starting something new or where to start is really overwhelming. And before we know it, a day's gone, a week's gone, a month's gone, and before we know it, 6 months gone. It's like, okay, what am I
Yep.
doing with my time? And then, yeah, the monkey brain kind of interferes and beats us up and says we can't do anything. And the evidence isn't building in our lives, in our structures, in our routines, where we can feel like we're getting anywhere,
Yep.
and I've kind of already kind of fed into the conversation around just the nature of life. How do we adapt to life? What's going on? Different stages of our life cycle, the curveballs, the
Yep.
things that we do know about, because like I said, it's not always so heavy. So a lot of that's kind of fed into Daily Five. How could we kind of present this opportunity and this structure to kind of guide people in a way in which feels accessible? Low barriers to entry. How can we move our body and our mind? How can we, and sometimes, we want to have fun as well in life.
Of
It's
course
not
we do.
always
Of
about,
course we
okay,
do.
I just need to beat myself up or to kind of, compare myself to others about the journey that we're on. But yeah, there's a lot that kind of goes on, which means we've got a level of responsibility to ourselves and others to kind of look at ourselves, not
Yep.
in a serious way all the time. It can be a bit of a light touch. So for me, a great way to position that in our own minds is that, okay, how can I invest at least 5 minutes into my day into something, whether it be physically or mentally? How can I open my mind up to different ways of, yeah, moving the body, moving the mind,
Yep.
reaching full potential. So that was the kind of the starting block. And I remember a few years ago, I kind of come across ikigai, and just around the different areas of life. Do I seek purpose? Where am I being of service? Where is it about me? Because there is a selfish nature about
Yep.
being human. Which you got to honor
Yep.
and not disrespect. But then also the real power is in connection and giving more than you take. So where do we have balance, in our realities where we can kind of get a sense of where we're at any given time? So that kind of fed into this framework of movement, connection, and reflection, and with an open mind, depending on what served us yesterday might not serve us tomorrow.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, again, without being too heavy, how can we kind of create this environment where you can discover new ways of moving, maybe connecting as well to ourselves so we feel better connected to others and our surroundings. And then also, the harshness of life sometimes presents us with really tough questions, that we don't want to answer. And there's a level of self-honesty that goes on around
Yep.
who's around me, who's inspires me, who guides me. Have I got the right frameworks in my life to kind of reach that destination? Do I know where that destination is? So to bring it all back to simplicity, I've got a big saying in my life around spirit before purpose. Unlock your spirit, get an insight into who you are, what you want, and to do that, you try things.
Yep.
And that's it. That's kind of what I learned a long time ago. To go back to 2002, I was 18 years old. Really hopeless, really dark time for me through addiction. So some of my story is extreme, but yeah, in the same breath, we've all got a story to tell. But yeah, very dark time. Found myself in rehab, and that was the gateway for me to, okay, life is at a certain stage where I've got a choice to make, whether I was forced there or not, because I didn't really want to be there. I was there to kind of people please, to get me out of a bit of trouble. But while I was there in these certain in these certain environments, I was being exposed to certain ways of being. So levels of vulnerability, levels of self honesty, levels of hope, or people that are kind of been in certain situations, lost things, consequences, huge consequences. We're talking
Yep.
life and death stuff, and the ripple effect that addiction has in people's lives, and it's just devastating.
Yep.
So I was exposed to these environments in various anonymouses, and I was 18 years old. So and it doesn't kind of matter what age you were, but I suppose I bring that into conversation. One, because I was 18 years old, but two, at that stage of life, it was well, now so grateful to kind of have that energy and that frequency around me, because then it opened up doors, to my
Yep.
mind. And obviously, I was very closed-minded at the time. I was in a lot of denial, just around my own life and my own consequences, my own actions around addiction. But yeah, being in rehab, having 11, and this feeds into a lot of what we're going to be talking about. Then having consistency in my life, knowing big saying in Alcoholics Anonymous and some of the other anonymouses, a day at a time.
Yep.
Don't look at anything in its
Yep.
entirety, because it's just overwhelming. You won't commit, you won't give what it needs. Just hyper focus on today, and you can start your day whenever you want. Whether you're having a shit morning, and it's like, okay, I'm going to start the day from now. It could be 3 p.m.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, this mindset was starting to become really true for me, and I could now bank in the evidence, because I was getting days of being sober, which just gave me more hope. The lights were going on, for want of a better word, but I was putting the work in as well. It doesn't just
Yep.
happen. You can't just sit there on a chair, listen to all this amazing wisdom around you, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, you need to put in the graft, and I put in the graft. I went to places I never thought I'd go to, spiritually and mentally, facing fears,
Yep.
my own insecurities, my inadequacies, taking responsibility for some of the all the actions that I took, making amends to loved ones and whatever the carnage was. And so then early on, I knew that you needed to be dedicated, and I knew that you needed to want it really bad. And
Yep.
you don't realize how bad you want it until you realize how bad you want it. And that's where resilience builds. And I know now, I'm 23 years sober, just gone. I know now that if I can give up drink and drugs and other bits and pieces, I can do anything, because that took me to places, deep, deep down in my core, to know that, there was days,
Yep.
and it slips off my tongue now, but, there was a good few years then in the early days when it was, yeah, not touch and go, but it's not straightforward. Your first birthday, your first Christmas, your first Tuesday night, all the firsts. But then once you get through the firsts, then you start to build up that confidence and that evidence, but never arrogance. You're always humbled by life to know that, okay, just every day, sobriety is a state of mind. So you can be 23 years sober and still be a complete dickhead, selfish, self-centered, dishonest, so yeah, it's just about, okay, what we're going to do with this information. But I suppose, yeah, the fundamentals that have kind of gone into daily five and everyday life. And I know people outside of addiction that still suffer, so it's not like an addiction only conversation. We've all got our own lives. We've all got our own lives to manage, our own set of circumstances. And I feel like the older you get, the more you realize that, yes, we're all going to go through something at some time, and it's going to, we're going to be interfered with, with the mind, and we might get a bit down around certain things. So yeah, like I said, although some of my stories extreme, I still no better, no worse than anybody else.
And you know what? It's an interesting one for me because look, we are kind of like born into a bit of a fallen world, right?
Mm.
So it's not easy from day one, and it's harder for some than it is for others. But I do think everyone experiences certain things, right? So I've been in a big depression, years ago, and dark places, dark thoughts, and you come through it, and you realize actually when you do finally come out the other end, what felt like it was going to never end makes you stronger,
Yeah.
right? And then you realize as you go through life that regardless of what comes against you, you're never going to be back down there again because you've already experienced it once and you realize you're going to come out. Some people can live in the fear though that they're going to go back there. But I think life has all its own challenges. And for most people, they have the same challenges, but in different ways. So, what could be an addiction of alcohol and drugs could be an addiction of something else, which could have different consequences, family, friends, people you love and stuff like this. But it's interesting what you say because we all have choices and decisions that we can make. Don't always get it right. I think you mentioned it earlier. Being human is being human. It's difficult. We live in a world where we follow the sheep, if you like, or not, right? Depending on what we want to do. But it's about making choices. And when we flip back to daily five. Daily five allows you to almost make choices kind of in secret, right? So if you wanted to start something, let's say you go, right, okay, I need to do something in my life. I need to start something new. I'm out of shape. I don't feel comfortable going to the gym. Don't feel comfortable going to the dance studio. Don't feel comfortable going to a yoga studio, whatever it may be. It's giving people the ability to go, right, just me and these four walls can make a decision, and no one really needs to know we've even done it.
Mm.
But it's a start, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And that's it. There's so much to Daily Five, and I'm not here to kind of create muddy waters. We want to be
Yep.
as clear and concise as possible. But whatever experience, I say whatever. We're not about being somebody to everybody because that's impossible.
Yep.
He says because within the Daily Five environment, we can pretty much meet anybody where they are in life. Whether it's like I said, a fitness journey they want to go on and physically want to move more, be more active,
Yep.
or if they want more of the gratitude, the visualization, the breath work, the yoga, then we can facilitate that as well. So we are a start for a lot of people,
Yep.
but obviously we're not here to be an instead of. We can complement what already exists. So you might already have positive habits. We're
Yep.
not here to say, okay, you're on the edge and you don't know where to start. Absolutely, hopefully I've been quite clear that we can definitely facilitate that next
Yep.
step for you,
Yep.
and hopefully inspire you to build up these days and these 5 minutes, because incrementally you'll be on your way. We can support that. Also, yeah, I mean, if you're already, you're out there running, or you already go to the gym, or you already kind of cycle, or go to yoga, then there's enough variety on it. So, okay, let me kind of take a little look
Yep.
at the journaling side of life. Or maybe I can't run at the moment, so I've got an injury. So maybe I can move my body in lighter way, do a bit of qigong or a bit of tai
Yep.
chi, or maybe I might just press play on a sound bath, because it's not going to make me feel any worse. You might not like it,
Yep.
but so like I said, through the AI assistant that we've got called Daily, just type in how you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's going on for you in that day, and we can suggest some sessions for you in that moment, which is amazing. Or as you investigate the platform, obviously functionality is going to grow in the coming months, but short
Yep.
term, just have a little look, because the move, connect, reflect methodology that I've kind of been living my life through. I'm just reimagining things, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
pretty much everything that's on the Daily Fire platform has been around for thousands of years. I'm just a bit of a conduit without sounding too romantic, but it's nice. It's nicely put together. It's very thoughtful. All the
Yep.
experts on there can kind of guide, people in their next steps as they tend to venture in there, because of course we promote movement and being active, your stereotypical upper body, lower body, hit. We've got Afrobeat dance on there. We've got hip hop dance on there. We've got some really amazing, unfamiliar ways
Yep.
of, you might do what you're doing now. You might smile at it and think, okay, that's a bit random, but it all makes sense on the
Yep.
platform. But transformationally, collectively, the Move, Connect, Reflect framework on a daily basis. Yes, we invite you to invest. We give you back 5 minutes on a daily basis.
Yep.
But if you can kind of add a bit of movement, connection, reflection to your daily life, I pretty much guarantee you ain't gonna feel any worse, and that you will start to see some noticeable differences quite quickly.
You know what? It's quite interesting, right? I don't know about you, but at the end of every week, I think on a Sunday, I get a bit of an update on my mobile phone. It says, "Oh, your average time on your phone, daily time on your phone was like mine's about 2.5 hours." I don't think the average is probably a lot more than that, right? Because I tend not to use social media and things like
I
this
don't
that
look.
much anymore, right?
Mm.
Just because I am kind of bored of it a little bit. However, most people spend a lot of time on their phone. And I know this isn't that you can stream it through the TV, you can do all of this stuff now, right? So if you want to sit in your front room and stream it on the TV, you can do all of that stuff.
I believe so.
You can, trust me, you can.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah. We are working on lots
Um,
of things, but
but
yeah.
it's you're only asking people to give up 5 minutes,
Mm.
right? So most if people were to look at their minutes on their mobile phone, their daily minutes, and let's say it's 3 hours, right? Let's say it's more. You're saying to someone, "Look, give us, or not even give
No,
us,
we're giving you.
give yourself
Mhm.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
To do something you might enjoy doing, do something you've never done before, do something that could make you feel good, right? Do something that takes your mind off of what's everyone else doing on social media, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news, how have taxes gone up, how's, what's inflation, right? All of these things that, just
Yeah, I don't look at that stuff anyway, but
right,
yeah.
exactly, right? But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is we're filling our mind with a lot of negative stuff in the world right now, right? Because it's just the way of the world. So, what you're saying is take 5 minutes and put something positive in your mind. Do something you've never done before. There's experts on there. No one's on there saying, look, we don't know what we're talking about. They're all experts at what they do in
No,
different
so
subjects.
grateful for the people
Yeah.
that gravitated towards us. Like, there's
Tell
some
us a little bit more
amazing people.
about the people you've got on there and some of the stuff. Because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, do you know what? Even if you're a 10-year-old kid
Mm.
and you want to get into a bit of hip hop,
Mhm.
right? Or you want to do a bit something different.
Mm.
It's something you can share as a family, right? So it's not like something where, the mum, dad downloads the app and says, right, I want to do this. No, you can have your kids learning little bit of hip hop and things like this, and
Yeah, it's good fun.
having a bit of fun in the front room.
Yeah,
And this is kind of where I talk about, give yourself a little bit of time back, make a commitment, right? And I know, like, it's a paid for app and everything else, but I think when you pay for something, and it's not expensive actually saying that, but when you pay for something, you make a commitment, so you want to use it,
yeah,
right? It's like, if you pay fiver for a drink and you drunk half of it and you're kind of done, you end up drinking the rest just because you pay for it,
yeah,
right? So by doing that, your people have to make a commitment, which I think is the right thing to do, right?
yeah,
And again, it's back to that vow. It's making the start. But I was going to say, guys, just going back a little bit, tell us about people you got on the app. Tell us about the experts. Um, you know, and maybe talk about some of the things that people might think, oh, never ever thought about that.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, it's super cool. Like I said, the people on there, and we're building a global network, a global community of just,
Yep.
amazing humans out there that really passionate about what they do, and they're being of service in a lot of ways, because a lot of what is on Daily Five platform is, yeah, it's kind of got that edge to it where the world needs it, and a lot of the experts, if not all of them, have had a moment in time in their lives where they've kind of experienced what they now teach, because it had such an impact on their life. So there's that
Yep.
kind of depth to the passion that they've got for it, because
Yep.
they know this stuff works. Whether it be the breath work, whether it be the gong baths, whether it be the visualization, or the PT stuff. Every single one of them has got their own story to tell around why they do what they do. So to kind of bring that energy to the platform, we're not here to create overwhelm with like just hundreds of people there. It is very well thought out, and we do want a global network of
Yep.
people we can lean into and provide opportunities for as well. Because as much as we've got that digital nature of Daily Five, the in-person stuff is critical for us. So as we kind of embark on that side of the journey, we can all kind of collaborate with each other. We can, depending on what environment we're in, whether it be corporates or prisons or whatever, our own kind of events that we facilitate, we can get them involved and make them feel part of, because a lot of them as well are out there ducking and diving themselves, trying to earn a few quid, do the classes, do
Yep.
what they love, and trying to pay the bills. So
Yep.
yeah, if we can kind of create this ecosystem, but really diverse, and we're not one for the stereotypical influence on the platform. I'm very, very passionate about kind of creating these opportunities for people that might not get seen and heard, because it's not what they're used to, and not everyone wants to do it either. Not everyone wants to be in front of the camera doing the sessions. We're filming some really important stuff in the next couple of days around menopause, and I've got this amazing lady from the other side of Hertfordshire, and she's 63, and she's so nervous but excited, and she's like, "Oh, no one ever asked me to do this stuff," and it's like, well, come and do it. So we got introduced. Our trusted person introduced us. We've had a few calls, because we don't want to, obviously just be irresponsible and getting one on there just because of the romance. They've got to deliver, and they've got to, people are trusting us with the people we put on there. So yeah, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we are trying to create something in our own way, quite unique and special, where everyone can, do what they love and be part of Daily Five and what we represent.
And it's interesting actually, because I know, like everything you just said about the menopause stuff, right? You've kind of vetted everybody that's on there as an expert. And I think the one thing I know you've looked at is this person passionate about what they do?
Mm.
Yes, they are. Why do they do it? Because it changed their life in some way, and now they want to teach it. And quite often these people as well, you got to respect the fact that they say, well, actually, I could earn a lot more money doing this, but I want to sacrifice that because I'm passionate about this, which says a lot about people, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody makes those decisions. And I think that's quite nice. There's what it's kind of showing is there's a lot of passion inside the app, right? So each one of those individuals, each one of those kind of teachers, instructors, and everything you've got has a bit of a story and has a bit of a passion behind what they do, which is quite nice. You're probably going to share that a bit more as the app grows and stuff as well, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we're there to signpost as well, so people do like a particular individual, and then they can go and see what they're up to in their own area. That's why we want to build this global. We're doing a lot of stuff internationally at the moment as well. Yeah, not to look fancy. I mean, there's a lot of education in there for me as well, because although there's a lot of similarities with people and why they do it, there's also, being culturally sensitive to different places. So it's good education for me. I've been around the world over the last 23 years, done lots of incredible somewhat say mad things, which they just feel very kind of natural for me, putting myself out of my comfort zone and doing random bits. But everyone is not to do it for something. Some of it's been well, ultimately it's for my own personal development and how I show up as a father and as well used to be a husband and other areas of my life, but ultimately it's all gone into the fabric of daily
Yeah.
five as well, about all these people and their stories and why they do what they do, and the journey that they've been on to kind of land with it, and kind of go back to the early part of the conversation, this tapestry of life, just
Yep.
meeting people at certain times, and it's just, yeah, just very organically things have happened, and a lot of them have turned into good friends of mine, and yeah, it's a beautiful side of daily five, just kind of the people that I'm meeting and the friends that I'm getting, and yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to ask you a little bit about some of the stuff you've done now, your little kind of sports background. I know you've done some extreme stuff.
The reason why it's a good question is because I don't know the answer. Um, so everything from a spiritual point of view,